Hello, and welcome to Question in a Bottle. In this series of short discussions, private investor Mark Atkinson answers questions sent in by listeners and subscribers to his main podcast, The Desert Island Investor. So, let's take a look and see what's in the bottle that washed up on the beach today.
Right, Paul, we have a question simply from Christopher. No last name, that's not a problem. And Christopher's question is, what are the three dregs at the bottom of your investment pot and what are they doing there? He adds with an MB in the what are they doing there part of the question. Are they perhaps a stock that once held a more prominent position and much higher up in your portfolio but has since fallen from grace due to poor trading, etc.? Or is it a brand new starting position recently bought, hence small, or some other reason? Also importantly, do you intend to add to the various three stocks at some point, or will you be selling any of them, or are any of them just a hold, taking a wait and see type of approach? He's added a postscript. My question is worded as tongue-in-cheek, but a genuine question all the same. Thanks. Well, thank you for the question, Christopher, and it's a good one. I would imagine that most investors have some horrors in the cellars of their portfolio, and I'm no different. They may be in the basement, but not necessarily a bargain basement. One benefit of the question in a bottle is it often makes me consider things and reflect on my actions and what I'm actually trying to do. Now, the bottom three holdings collectively account for just 0.7% of the portfolio that I mismanage. And that's even less when I factor in my Fundsmith holding and private pension. So there's no way in the present form that they can have any significant burden on the portfolio or my net wealth or ultimately how I live my life. The bottom two holdings have something in common. I opened a starter position in both on the same day in July 2019. Now the bottom one is XP Power, ticker symbol XPP, and Focusrite, ticker TUNE. I paid £22 for XP Power and £5.34 for Focusrite, and I added a modest amount to Focusrite in October 2023 at £4.77. Therefore, I'm showing a healthy 41% loss on XP Power and 59% and 54% losses on those two Focusrite buys. To sound a bit like Catherine Tate, am I bothered? Not really. I'm not trying to be blasé. I know with a great deal of certainty that not all my investments will come off, and I build things on this basis. I do not beat myself up, and the fact that I can openly share these numbers demonstrates that I'm not particularly embarrassed. But what is comforting looking at those weightings is that even if they'd stayed level, they are such a low, insignificant part of the portfolio. It's the bigger conviction holdings that do the heavy lifting. Now, XP Power has not progressed from a starter position in 6 years. Now, that tells you something. In truth, I've not been able to gain a sufficient command of the business or their market, but there again, my energies are consumed more in the larger holdings, and I've let it sit there thinking it may have some role to play, but it's probably time when I'm doing some portfolio hygiene to roll it into another holding. Focusrite, I feel a slightly greater command of, but with both, for me, it takes quite a bit of work, and there are limits to what I want to do. I want my portfolio to serve me and not the other way around. In truth, it should also probably go. Now, this is not to say that they're not good businesses, good futures ahead of them, but perhaps they're not as compatible as me and other stocks. And one thing that has had a bearing on my thought process is that Me Group has been in an offer period, and my concern was that I may lose it from the portfolio. Now, already my portfolio was very concentrated in the top 10, 12, 15 holdings, and Me is my third largest holding with 10.4% of the portfolio. So I was looking at candidates outside of that band at the top that I could perhaps flesh out. Now, also during the year, I've been adding to some lower holdings, slightly diluting that concentration. Me have just announced that no offers have materialised, which I'm thankful of, and won't be forced into having to make any decisions. So the relevance of those smallest positions has diminished further. In both cases, it's not been a hardship having them in the portfolio, and they've paid a dividend, for what it's worth. Now, the third smallest holding I have slightly, or much greater hopes for. It's a new holding, and it's the Magnum Ice Cream Company by virtue of having this month hived out of Unilever. It's got a market cap of approximately 7 billion. It's just a slither of Unilever that is worth 115 billion. So that's why it's such a small position. Unilever remains in 7th place in the portfolio. Magnum's down at 30th. Now, this has added another holding for me. I've now got 32. And my goal is to trim this a little. One holding, Zytronic, of which I'm a non-executive director, is undergoing a solvent liquidation. But I would like to trim back to, I think, perhaps about 28 holdings, and in time have a slightly smoother, weightings throughout, less top heavy. Now, I could do that in 10 minutes with a few clicks of the mouse, but I like to operate in a considered and methodical fashion. In truth, there's little harm in having these scraps in the portfolio, other than it adds a little clutter. But anyway, just a little bit of a heads up. Paul and I will be covering the Magnum Ice Cream Company in the next episode of the Desert Island Investor. So we'll go into that in some greater depth. And if you're interested and haven't already subscribed, please do so, and you'll be notified of its release.
Well, that's all for this episode. We hope that you enjoyed it. Please remember the content is for information only, and it is not financial advice. If you have a question for Mark for our Question in a Bottle podcast, just complete the form on our website, thedesertislandinvestor.co.uk. Thanks again for listening. See you next time.